One thing that HomeGrid does really well is that we can provide pretty much a solution for any size system.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Today, we have a very special guest. I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself, but with all of the wonderful innovations happening in the space of battery storage and battery storage technology, I thought it was a really good time to bring on one of our key suppliers, a fantastic guy who represents a fantastic company. And so with that, I'll just go ahead and lead in. Joel, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for making the time. Why don't you start off by kind of telling our customers and our audience a little bit about yourself and the company that you represent?
Thanks, Will. My name is Joel Openshaw. I am with HomeGrid Energy. So we are actually a battery supplier. There's a lot of different pieces of technology that goes into setting up residential solar systems. And something that people are always very interested in is backup. All right, how can I back up my home? So HomeGrid Energy, we build the batteries for exactly that purpose. We've been around for a few years now. It's been extremely fun. It's a very, very rapidly growing market. So we're very grateful for the way we were able to time that as we entered the market. Personally, I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas. But HomeGrid Energy, we're international at this point. We do a lot of business in North America primarily, but we also have things going on in the Caribbean and a few other places.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your suite of products. What types of products do you offer? Are we talking about like whole off-grid systems? Or are we talking about just some kind of smaller backup battery options during, power outages? What is the kind of scope of the batteries that you provide for customers?
One thing that HomeGrid does really well is that we can provide pretty much a solution for any size system. So our smallest battery, we call the compact series, is just a 5 kilowatt hour and 5 kilowatt output battery. It's wall mountable, so makes installation really easy, really clean. And that's really just meant for some time of use or very short backup or very specific backup. Say you have a water pump or a refrigerator that you don't want going off. It's really, really good for those types of situations. And it's not overbuilding the system, for a small project. So we don't have to oversell someone on that project. But we scale extremely well. So the compact series is more of a standalone unit. It can be run in parallel to expand that. But where we really excel is our product called the stacked battery. Think of it essentially as batteries that you can just stack on top of each other like Legos. And that gives you the ability to expand your capacity depending on what your usage needs are. So say, a customer says, hey, I want, a 20 kilowatt hour battery. And you say, great, we can do that for you. If you're using the stacked battery, for us, that's about 4 modules. So you stack up 1, 2, 3, 4, just like Legos. But a year later, that customer goes and he buys himself an electric car and realizes that suddenly his energy usage is much higher than he was expecting. And so that battery isn't giving him the amount of backup that he was expecting, he or she was expecting. So in that type of situation, the reason people really love the HomeGrid battery is that you can just go back on site and you can drop on another one of our batteries, right? Just like a Lego onto the system without having to change the whole design. That's something that is actually very revolutionary in home storage right now, is typically if you're going to add to a system, you just have to add another standalone unit rather than being able to add to what's already there.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've discovered and that I appreciate about your product. Because many customers that reach out to us about backup battery storage, it could be any number of energy goals that they have for that battery. Maybe it is to just offset some time of use, or maybe they want to completely offset and have, an off-grid type of structure. And if you look at Enphase's battery, the Encharge series, or Tesla's battery, the power wall, or even Generac's batteries, with the power cell, from a design and engineering perspective, you kind of have to have the final configuration as part of that initial design, because scaling and stacking those batteries becomes a little bit trickier once you start to get into additional expansion. One of the other constraints that I see, and that some of my customers have experienced, is that you really can't interface certain battery types with different types of inverters, right? So it really keeps you limited in terms of what type of solar configuration you can have. So let's say with the Enphase product, the Enphase Encharge product, you're really only looking at micro inverters at that point. Those batteries are going to be able to get designed with the micro inverter. But if you want to expand or add on maybe a different battery type, it's not going to function properly. And so when you're looking at battery technology, I think that is one of the advantages I've seen with HomeGrid. And so I'll go ahead and kind of pivot to that question. What types of configurations does your battery system support? Can it work with a microinverter setup? Can it work with a single inverter like a SolarArc inverter? What are some of those unique attributes and some of the limitations that customers might expect?
Our battery, just as a technical basis, to some people this may mean a little bit, to others this may mean absolutely nothing. But our battery is a 48-volt system, and it's a DC coupled battery. That may sound like gibberish to some people, and that's okay. Basically, it just means our battery is a standalone unit, and it needs an inverter to be able to function properly. So you mentioned the SolarArc. SolarArc is a very close partner with HomeGrid. I'm not really affiliated with SolarArc outside of our professional relationship between HomeGrid and SolarArc there. But I've loved working with their product because it's definitely has the best suite of features of any inverter on the market. And so you talk about being able to take microinverters, say like an Enphase system, and make that work with a battery, right? Typically, if you're running an Enphase system, the only battery option you have is an Enphase battery. Unfortunately, that means you only get the power of about 3.5 kilowatts coming out of the Enphase battery. And so not really a piece of technology that can do a whole home backup, which is what most people are expecting or wanting when they buy a battery. So that story kind of rings true with almost every other battery you listed, whether it's Tesla or Generac. None of those are really whole home capable systems. And so when you take just a standard, right, DC coupled battery and you pair it with a string inverter, because string inverters are generally much larger. So a SolarArc 15K, right, you have 15,000 watts you're able to push out of the inverter versus the Enphase 3,500, right? So you're almost 4 times more power coming out of a SolarArc. And so if you want to back up your whole house, right, you need as much power to flow through the inverter from the battery. We typically work with SolarArc. However, our battery being 48 volt means it's open to a lot of different systems on the market. So there's a lot of installers who love Outback or SMA. They've got some of those legacy systems out there, even some that had previously been running on lead acid batteries, right? Someone just hooking up car batteries to power up their home. For even those DIY prepper types, this is really easy replacement that gives you a lot more functionality. So the HomeGrid battery, it's this weird one size fits all. It scales from super small to as big as you want. On the stack system, it goes from 9.6 kilowatt hours to 38.4 kilowatt hours in a single stack. So that's one self-contained unit. And there's really nothing close to that on the market.
Can you talk a little bit about your costs and how the cost of your batteries may stack up against some of the major competitors out there on the market, like Tesla, like Generac, like Enphase?
HomeGrid was hitting the market. We definitely took a hard look at price and tried to figure out the price point we wanted to hit to be competitive. And newer companies typically come in very low, so they're attractive to new groups willing to take a little bit of risk. We definitely kind of follow that path. So being a relatively new company in the space, only here for a couple of years, we wanted to come in very aggressive. So our HomeGrid battery is really priced at the cost of some batteries, maybe more similar to like stores. These more DIY oriented products, maybe some products that maybe aren't as refined, because right, if you cut the corners, you can lower the cost. For HomeGrid, we wanted a very well built battery, very well refined. It looks nice, and it hits all the specifications you need for a whole home backup, as well as being able to remain reliable long term on the system. Right, having a parallel bus, so if something happens, the whole system doesn't go down; it continues to run. And then price, being able to be competitive, right? Sonnen is a battery company. They build fantastic batteries. I think they have 15-year warranties on some of them. Definitely the longest and best warranties of any battery on the market. But they're 3 times more expensive than anybody else. And so, who uses them? I think I've run into one actual Sonnen battery in person. Only one company I've ever met that's installed them, because the price is so obtrusive. Like no one can touch that. So we typically find our battery priced in between the high end, very well known brands like LG, Tesla, Generac. So that being on the high end of the price, and then some of the more budget friendly options like Stores or Simplify. So typically you'll find us a little bit closer to the Stores and Simplify price point, but with qualities and features that are 2 to 3 or 4 times even what a Tesla battery can do. When you put them on a spec sheet, it makes no sense that our battery is the price it is when you see what it does compared to the competition.
Design is becoming more and more important to customers, right? When I look at the HomeGrid battery in terms of capability and functionality, the HomeGrid battery to batteries is what the Solark is to inverters, right? I love the Solark product. We talk a lot about it on the channel, on your website. You could check them out. Any customer that's interested in the inverter to rule all inverters, that's basically their slogan. And so that the Solark inverter allows a lot of functionality, compatibility, but the HomeGrid battery too is very similar in that regard. You could plug and play and kind of bolt on and expand and scale. It's really fluid. But let's talk about design. So one of the things about Solark that I'm constantly talking to customers about is it's an ugly inverter. Solark is one of those inverters where it's amazing under the hood, but it's ugly. It's not like some of these other inverters where they're kind of built with somewhat of an aesthetic design and the customer's design preferences. So let's talk about HomeGrid. How have you factored into the HomeGrid design both capability, functionality, as well as some of the customer aesthetics that really is an important piece of why people decide to go with one product over the other?
Obviously, choosing your solar equipment and the device that you want to power your home based solely off of looks is definitely the wrong way to go. Wouldn't recommend that to anyone. But that being said, if you're going to spend $20,000-$50,000 on a piece of equipment for your house, for your whole system, you don't want it to be ugly to look at, right? You don't want this eyesore every time you pull in a garage thinking, I'm glad I have my lights on, but I hate looking at that thing. So, we definitely took into some consideration to what the thing looked like. I feel like there are a lot of people out there who may resonate with your opinion on Solark as far as their beauty standards go. And I think that may be a testament to the people who run it. They're very engineer mindset. It's all about the specs. It's all about what it does. It's what's under the hood. Not as much the appearance. And so it definitely fits within Solark's philosophy of just kind of building a tank that can power your house. So that side's really awesome. As far as the design, as far as how we built our specifications for our battery, there is quite a bit that went into that. So one thing really incredible about our battery is using lithium iron phosphate for our battery chemistry. I'm not sure if that's something you've touched too much on this podcast before, but I'll give you the short version for any listeners who may not be as familiar. Essentially, it's specifically when we're talking about storage in the solar market, you typically see two types of lithium batteries. The first one would be the NMC, nickel, manganese, cobalt. And that's the battery that most of us are the most familiar with. That's what's in our iPads, our phones. That's what's powering up Tesla cars. And that's what a lot of current home batteries are using. And I'll say this, I love that there are more companies out there building batteries, but the NMC is not the right chemistry for home usage. I'm sure everyone's familiar with their cell phones crapping out after a couple of years because the battery dies. And it's because that battery isn't really meant to last that long. If you're going to use all of your battery, NMC cells really only get about 500 cycles out of them. In the solar industry, you'll see that cycle life extend quite a bit, and it's because the system's design actually limits how much of the battery you're allowed to use. So if you had the mental fortitude to only ever charge your battery to 90% on your phone and only ever drain it down to 10% on your phone, it would last much, much longer. But no one ever really does that. And so fortunately for a lot of customers, that's built into the home batteries they're buying with nickel, manganese, cobalt. The other side of it is that those batteries have the ability to overheat. It's called thermal runaway. I'm sure you felt your battery in your phone get really warm while you're charging it. Now imagine a battery about 1,000 times bigger and stronger. It's definitely enough to be able to cause a fire and things like that. And we actually have seen, I cannot even tell you how many cases of energy storage with that chemistry actually, either setting someone's house on fire or just setting itself on fire. It's not uncommon. Not to, put out really any bad blood. Again, anyone building batteries, keep doing it. We just need more in the market because this is how we achieve independence. But Tesla, even had one of their batteries catch on fire for 3 days in Australia. This was a grid-sized system, so it's a much larger battery, but it's that type of chemistry can be very volatile. But we use something called lithium iron phosphate, or LFP. And so this is a chemistry, it's a little bit newer. However, it has been around for about 20 years. And that's about how long it takes for battery technology to really hit the market at a price point that makes sense for most people. So we use LFP, and there's a few advantages and disadvantages to that. One, I'll start with the disadvantages. It's a little bit bigger and it's a little bit heavier than NMC. But when you're talking about home storage, that's really not that big of a deal, right? It's only getting moved the one time into your home or onto your property, and then it's not going anywhere. And then this size-wise, you do have 8 feet of vertical room in most buildings that you can use. And so our battery scales vertically as you stack it like Legos. And so it's not using too much more room based on a footprint than any other battery. And right, depending on how big it is, they're really not that tall either. So it's a little heavier, it may be a little bit bigger, but the advantages come in that these batteries don't have the thermal runaway, so they are far, far, far safer than NMC batteries. So you're not going to be risking, fire hazards on a home. And they also last way longer than anything on the market. Lithium iron phosphate cells can be cycled up to like 8,000 or 9,000 cycles, right? That would give you one cycle every single day for over 20 years. Typically, we would expect these cells to last about 15 to 20 before they would actually require replacement. HomeGrid batteries come with a standard 10-year warranty.
So that brings us to a really good point. Battery chemistry is a very, very critical part of the battery's lifespan and the life cycle of that battery. So can you talk a little bit about your warranty? What type of warranty is it? What does the warranty cover? Many customers will go out to the market and they'll see a 10-year standard warranty on a battery, and they think that that covers the entire battery. I know with Stores Power, who we've also had on the channel, they have a 15-year warranty. But when you actually look into the details of that warranty, it's a production warranty or it's a cycle warranty. It's not a warranty on the entire product itself. So can you give our customers a little bit of better insight into what is covered in the warranty? How long is that warranty? What can they expect from the warranty with the HomeGrid battery?
So the HomeGrid warranty is pretty straightforward. It's a 10-year warranty, just like everything else in the market. It's a 4,000 cycle warranty. So that gives you more than one cycle per day. One of the things that really set it apart is that those cycles are counted 100% to 0% depth of discharge, meaning if you use your entire battery, the warranty is still valid. Most companies out there won't let you keep your warranty if you're actually cycling it 100 to 0 on a daily basis. They'll say you're warranted to 80% depth of discharge. So if your battery ever goes below 20% for HomeGrid, you do get that 100% depth of discharge. And so one of the things that our design makes really easy is, say there is warranty work that needs to be done. So for whatever reason, say a module has a bad cell in it, and you get the error code, call up HomeGrid, say, hey, we need to get this taken care of. The way our batteries are set up, being that they stack up like Legos, just like it's easy to upgrade, it's easy to service. So if you have a module that goes down, first off, the system continues to work. Part of that's because it's a lower voltage. For some more technical people, it means we can run all of our modules in parallel. So if one goes down, the rest can keep it flowing. And then someone can come up on site, bring a replacement module, put it on the stack, take the other one away, and you're good to go. A service like that really only takes about 30 minutes to accomplish. And generally with no loss of power to the customer.
We've been talking a little bit about residential, but what about commercial? Is there any commercial application to the HomeGrid battery? We have a lot of customers, including myself, where yes, we have a home and obviously we want energy storage for our home, which is why many of us look into these products. But some of us are business owners, right? We have customers that have manufacturing facilities, or maybe a hardware store out there, or maybe a grocery store. So is there any commercial capability or any commercial capacity that the HomeGrid battery can offer?
The HomeGrid battery, the stacked, it does scale really well. Like I mentioned, you can reach 0.5 megawatt hour of capacity using the HomeGrid batteries. We do have a specific product built for that, built specifically for small commercial projects. It's called our Power Cube. And so essentially what it is, it's just an all-in-one casing to tie together multiple HomeGrid batteries into a form factor that will work in a commercial setup. So typically, commercial spaces, you won't have a lot of extra room inside. It's all being used for inventory, workspace. There's a million different things, a million different companies out there, but oftentimes there'll be room on the outside of the building. However, those spaces are usually very exposed and very prone to the elements. And so we build a casing with built-in HVAC and power control units, everything like that, to make sure that we can safely feed into a commercial property 208 three-phase using SolarX. So basically think of it as a big old container, maybe not quite the size of a 10-foot shipping container, but a bigger container full of HomeGrid batteries, and on the outside is housed 3 SolarX 15Ks with all the wiring included, so that you can essentially just land that directly onto your main panel for your business and have a backup for all of that. What's really nice with that system is if you want to tie in solar onto that system, you have the ability to tie in close to 60 kilowatts of solar using just one of the power blocks. And that one scales as well, where you can put 2 of those onto a system, which would give you a little over about 300 kilowatt hours total. So a very, very good product for smaller commercial. Obviously, it just gets bigger from there. There are so many different uses for it. But one thing at a time.
So part of our customer base is the do-it-yourself crowd. I get calls all the time of people saying, hey, can't you just sell me the equipment and then I'll just install it myself? So can you talk a little bit about the HomeGrid battery? Is that something that I can just go as a customer, order off the shelf and then just, plug and play? Or is there a little bit more to it? Is it even available to the do-it-yourself crowd?
There are a few distributors that will sell direct to consumer. I wouldn't recommend it. I am a very DIY guy. I've got 7 motorcycles in my garage because I refuse to take any of them to a mechanic for someone else to fix. So half of them run, half of them don't. It's always like that. I always do things myself. I've got 42 panels being delivered to my home this week, and my goal was to do the entire installation myself and probably sub out the final connections to a local electrician. As I've gone farther and farther down that road, unbelievable how many road bumps I've been hitting. Specifically, I'm in San Antonio, so I'm dealing with CPS. They're a much more strict utility than a lot of Texas has. And so as I'm trying to get permits and things like that, I roadblock after roadblock of, I'm not allowed to do this on my own, really. And that's essentially the answer I came to. I'm in the industry. I know how all the equipment works. I've set up a lot of these, and I've talked to hundreds of installers who've set these up, and I can't even do it because I don't have the relationships with these utilities to get the permits through, to get the relationships in. So for some of the DIY people who are building truly off-grid setups, I think you probably would actually be able to do the whole thing yourself pretty easily. The HomeGrid battery for installers takes less than an hour to set up. Installers who know what they're doing and have done a few typically can do it in about 30 minutes. That includes taking it out of the box. That's like the longest part. They're very, very simple units to set up. Our whole training video on our website is like 7 minutes long, and that tells you everything you need to know about how to set up a HomeGrid battery. For the DIY people living in a suburban neighborhood, likely you're still going to have to work with your install companies, your solar groups, because they're the ones who can help you with the permitting. And there's a lot more that goes into system design and permitting than most people realize. It is a very involved process, and there are literal hundreds of professionals all over the place. I guess out of how many thousands of professionals do system design alone, but it's a career in its own right. So it's yes and no. Some of you may be able to pull it off. Others, call up Will. He'll take care of you.
The DIY crowd, man, I love them, right? And if you're watching this channel right now and you're a do-it-yourselfer and you've been able to successfully install your own system, like, reach out to us. We'd love to even have you on the channel to, document how that process worked for you and how you were able to make it work, because I'm running into customers all the time that just want to do it themselves. And I try to break down, it's not about just being able to buy the product that you want, but it is about permitting. It's about the relationships with the utilities. It's much more complex. And so if you're interested in a do-it-yourself type of project, feel free to check out one of my other videos where I speak specifically on what you would need to consider and things you need to think through in the process. But by and large, it's definitely something that we don't encourage, because there's warranty issues if you do it yourself as well. There's warranty issues not just with the product itself, like the battery or the inverter or the panels, but also with your roof, if your roof is warranted too. So there's a lot of factors to consider. But thank you so much, Joel, for answering that question, because I know I'm going to get asked about that question. Can I buy your battery off the shelf and just do it myself? So definitely thank you for that. So one last question here, which is more just kind of about, where can we get more information on your product? So if I'm a customer, I'm watching this interview and I want to do some more research, I want to dig in. Maybe I'm a technical person and I want the some specifications on the product, or maybe I'm just a customer that's looking to get my hands on this product. So where could I go to learn more about the product? Where could I go to actually get my hands on the product? HomeGridEnergy.com,
right? Pretty basic domain for who we are. is where you can find pretty much any piece of information. We try to actually build that out as a learning center for our customers. It's more than just a link to get in touch. It is a resource for most of our customers. So even, as our sales reps for HomeGrid are reaching out to solar installers, we don't have, pitch decks, on spreadsheets and things like that to send around, because frankly, they're really boring when people do that. And all of the information that you would need to know about our batteries is you can find on our website. So you can find our training videos on how to actually install the system. Like I mentioned, it's only 7 minutes long. And so if you're curious of what it actually takes to put one of these in, go ahead and give it a watch. You'll be able to find that out. All of our spec sheets are on there. You can find our certifications. You can also, we have a contact us page, which isn't just a form to fill out and someone's going to email you back, but it gives you names and numbers. The email is for all of our reps across the country who are extremely well trained on this product and this industry. We'll be able to help you out. As well as all of our reps have deep relationships with distributors, installers across the country. So if you find yourself somewhere a little more rural or not, and you're just looking for someone you can trust to install our equipment, you can just reach out to one of our sales reps and we'll get you connected with the right person.
Thank you so much, Joel. I really appreciate your time. And for those of you watching, I'm going to put tons of links down in the description. Please go and check out the HomeGrid website. Check out some of the product specifications. It really is a unique and a very affordable option. On top of that, I know that Joel's a little bit of a motorcycle enthusiast. So am I. I actually follow him on TikTok, which he may not even know. So if you are interested in kind of motorcycles and do it yourself and restoring and building motorcycles, check out his TikTok. You could follow him. Joel, do you happen to know what your handle is on TikTok and whether or not you're on Instagram? I'd like to drop that in the comments and in the description below as well.
Yeah, I think my handle on everything is just Joel Openshaw. Fortunately, I had no competition for that name, so I was able to take it across the board. So whether, Instagram, TikTok, I don't know really what else. I haven't been on Instagram in a while, but trying to make a little bit more content on TikTok just because I think it motivates me to actually do my own work on my bikes versus letting them sit in the garage for a week at a time. It's a lot easier to make tacos and hang out than it is to work on my bikes. So filming it, I think, gives me a little more motivation to get some things done. Appreciate it, Will.